you've got to help me. I'm trapped in this barn and only you can help solve the puzzles to get me out of here. What should I look at? Where should I search? Oh, wait. This is YouTube. You can't tell me what to do live right now. But what you see there is an example of what's been going on in the escape room industry. Escape rooms, since they can't have people into their facilities, are creating virtual rooms where someone is in the room with a camera and you're telling that person what to do. So this has been an interesting concept for me to think about with escape rooms in education, because the teachers many of them are teaching remotely, and they could set up a little escape room around in the corners of their house. And they may not have a barn in which to set it up, but that's the beauty of this. You don't need a lot of space. You could just do it on a desktop. Set up a short little 10-minute escape room and use your video camera in order to be the avatar. And that's what goes on in these rooms. One person is holding the camera and is running around the space. Now, another idea, if you're a parent, is that this could be a great experience for your family. To lock them in the basement, to create with them an escape room and then use your camera in order to broadcast the escape room to your extended family to say, hey, Grandma, help us escape from the basement. You could create all the puzzles and use the camera to communicate with them. Now, to do this, you have to have some way of actually showing people around the room. Some way to use your phone to somehow allow people to see the challenges and tell you what you should look at. But there's several options to do that. So the purpose of today's video is to explore a number of different contraptions so that you can be the avatar in your own escape room adventure. Hi there, everyone. So this is Scott Nicholson, and I thought I would take you on a little tour of some tools that you might want to use if you're going to put together your own escape room. So a lot of escape room companies are now going to this kind of a first-person avatar virtual escape room. When I bought this property where I live now, I was very excited because I had this old barn and I thought, oh, this will make a great escape room. And then COVID happened and I really didn't pursue that anymore. Now for my project, I'm going to be by myself. So therefore I'm going to want to use a phone for everything I'm doing. And so I polled owners to get an idea of what they were doing. I put together 5 different setups. I'm going to show you those 5 setups now, talk through them to give you some ideas of what you may want to use. Now for all of these, I'm using an iPhone and I'm using the AirPods as my communication tool because I didn't want to wire in the way as I'm engaging with the room. As you can see, I spent a lot of time doing environmental storytelling. I wanted to create this setting of like this old barn that's just about to fall down with this floor that's falling through. I even made a lot of like bird poop everywhere, make it look like birds are living. Oh wait, no, this is actually what it is. It's old barn and birds live here all the time because I haven't done anything else with it. Anyway, so number 1. The cheap, just the phone, nothing else. Now, the reality is, if this were your story, if your idea was, hey, the story is I'm in this space and all I have is this phone to communicate with the players, this could work, actually. It's environmental storytelling. But the reality is, after a while of trying to watch someone run around a space holding a phone and pointing at things, well, it's going to get a little tiring, you know. While it might fit in, it might give that feeling, an hour of this is going to be a little much. So while you could use this, I would definitely build it into the story. If you're going to use this, I would not. I would use some sort of technology to make it a little bit better for the players. And so we're going to move on to technology number 1. Now, adding a little bit of technology is adding a quick tripod onto the base of the phone. So the idea here is this is a tripod that I can open up very quickly in order to set the phone down somewhere and be able to work with a prop or work with something. Note that for any of these, you should design the room for the technology you're going to use. So if I know that I'm going to set up the room for this quick tripod, then I want to make sure that anywhere I'd have a puzzle, I want to have a place to put the tripod and have it mounted just so that it will angle directly at the puzzle. But some advantages to this is much more comfortable to hold for a long time than trying to hold the phone like this. When I move, it's relatively smooth. It's not bad. It's certainly a lot more comfortable than holding the phone. And then I may have this corn cob nicely placed so that when someone says, oh, I want to look at that box, then I can open up the tripod, put it down, and the corn cob is actually now holding up the tripod, and now I can manipulate this box and engage with you, and then we finished it, we've moved on. I pick up the tripod again, and then I move it to whatever the next challenge is. So just adding that little tripod gives you much more flexibility in being able to deal with challenges of moving things with two hands, or if you're wanting to set something down and go over and engage with the player so they see you, then having that handheld tripod is a lot more comfortable. So one option is to get a dolly with wheels on it, like I have here, on a tripod, and then the camera sits on top of it. And then I'm able to move this around the space. It holds the camera still, and then when I move it, it actually can look a lot better. Now the challenge with this is your floor. So you can see, I don't have a great floor for this. I can't really even roll it successfully over here, but if I pick it up and move it, then it's not so bad. The dolly actually hangs onto the tripod. I can move it, set it down, and then can roll it around. And the nice thing about this is if I want to show you something, then once I've got it in place, I can then move around in front of it and manipulate what's going on. And it can make it feel more like I'm in the space with you if that's the kind of thing you want to do. And then if they say, oh, I want to see over there by that power box. Okay, well, we'll roll the dolly over there. Now this would be much better on a solid floor. I don't have a solid floor. That's something to think about. If you don't have a solid floor, then this dolly option isn't a good one. But if you do want to bring it like the concept of I'm in the space, I'm doing what you're telling me, I can still hear and talk to you is what's going on, and I can get in there and manipulate with the situation, well, then this can be a good choice, this dolly with the tripod. It gives me freedom. It keeps the camera very still. If I just want to pan around, I can do that, and it's not going to look shaky. It's going to look pretty good. So this is the technology of using a dolly with a tripod. If you have smooth floors and you design your puzzles so that they are situated in a way that the actor can move around in front and actually engage with the players, then you may want to look at this dolly plus tripod. I've seen other models of this where people will use like a stand with an iPad on it, but the idea of something on wheels and the recording device on top lets you move around and engage with stuff. So the next thing is a gimbal. And so this is a handheld gimbal. It's designed to hold a phone, and it's designed so that if you move it around, it's magic. Ooh, magic. Oh. Anyway, so the idea is that as you move around the space, if I move quickly this way, it pans slowly. So if I move quickly back, it slowly pans around. So it doesn't induce as much motion sickness as it would if I was just holding the phone. So another nice thing is it smooths out the bumps. So you can see I'm moving around pretty quickly here, this space, and it's not bouncing, and that's a really nice thing. Now, this particular gimbal has, and most of them have, a tripod attachment on the bottom. So I can take that quick tripod that I had earlier, using just with the phone, and now I can set the gimbal down somewhere. If I then want to engage with an activity with both hands, if I want to then move in front of it and do something directly with the player, they can see what's going on, it'll hold things steady. Same idea is that if I got everything set up right, I can point it so it points at something, and I can operate it with both hands. But so that's the idea of the gimbal and tripod. And I know this is a pretty popular choice. It is heavier, and I actually find it more tiring to hold than just the tripod because the gimbal has some weight to it. So we've now moved into the world of harnesses. So this is a harness that holds a GoPro. The harness is hooked to a GoPro Gooseneck, which is hooked to a GoPro base, which is hooked to a J-hook, which is hooked to a phone base. And so this allows me to have both hands free to manipulate and move around the room. This harness is a cheap harness though. It came in a big pack of a lot of GoPro accessories, and a problem with it is the straps going around the neck are very thin elastic and they're not strong. And therefore I added this to give it some more stability, because I was able to hang this around the neck and then I could rest the gooseneck in this, and that gave it the stability. Because without this, it just flops down. This elastic's not strong enough. The other option I would have, if I'm going to use this solution long term, would be to replace this elastic with cloth once I knew how far it needed to be from my body. Now with this gooseneck setup, one challenge is if you don't hold it while you walk, as you see, it gets pretty bouncy. And so the solution to that is when you're moving from place to place, you hold it in front of you, and that stabilizes it quite a bit. You can move around as long as you're holding that gooseneck. And then when you get to your puzzle, then you can use both hands and you can manipulate it. You don't have to take the time to set things down. Now what this is gonna do, this is gonna take the actor out of the game and put the actor behind the camera, as compared to when you have a tripod or something where you can move around and be in front of the camera. So you have to decide what you want as your story. Do you want to be talking hands, talking to the player with hands and voice, or do you actually want to be moving around and bring that in as part of the story? That can help determine the sort of technology you're going to use. But the gooseneck setup, the nice thing about it is I have both hands free. As long as I hold the gooseneck while I move around, it's not bad, you know, but then when I actually get to manipulate something, I still can see the camera, I can see what's going on, and I can manipulate the activities. It's much less tiring. Even just supporting it like this is much easier than holding up a camera the whole time. All right, so here is the fanciest setup I'm going to be showing you. So what we have here is we have a gimbal, and that gimbal is going through a handlebar adapter for the GoPro, which is attached to the harness. Now, this harness is a Stuntman brand harness. It's a nicer harness. I certainly notice the difference between this and a cheaper harness. The problem is with just the bike adapter and the harness, the gimbal flopped around. And so the bottom of the gimbal has a place to put a tripod, and this down here is a flexible tripod. So the flexible tripod then goes up against my body, and that gives it the support that it needs. So the nice thing about the gimbal is it allows you to move around the space. You have both arms free the whole time, which might be something you want to do, you know, so you want to go climb the ladder. Okay, I can climb the ladder, and people, oh, I'm not going to climb that ladder. I don't think anyone's climbed that ladder in a very long time. Anyway, so you move over to a prop, then you can actually get involved and bend over and deal with the prop and work with things on that. And then you can move around. And so it's going to give you the most natural hands-free. You're not ever having to carry anything and move things around. Now, this particular gimbal has a little joystick on it, so I can use that to zoom around or pan up and down if I wanted to do that to keep it very smooth. I could also just move the thing myself and pan up and down, and it will move just fine. So there's a couple options to do that. So this is the most expensive setup, but it's also hands-free, keeps things relatively smooth as you walk around. And so this is the setup that I'm going to work with as I move forward, because everything, I don't have to do anything. I can look down at the screen and see what's going on. So this works pretty well, but it's expensive. So you have to decide how much money you want to spend and what you want to put together for your experience. So there we go. We've taken a look at 5 different technologies, going from just holding the phone, up to adding a small tripod, up to adding a gimbal, up to strapping the gimbal onto your chest or strapping a gooseneck onto your chest. Each one has different amount of investment and will be better at doing different kinds of things. If you just want it easy, I would say to just have a tripod attached to your camera, so you have the option of carrying it around or setting it down. The gimbal allows you to have a much smoother version of that with the tripod, as well as it's going to be smooth, but strapping the gimbal to your chest gives you that flexibility of motion. If you want this same setup with both hands, then look to using that gooseneck setup. Just know you're going to have to hold the gooseneck as you move from place to place. I'd like to thank Red Bull for their support. Over the last 2 years, they've supported us at Wilfrid Laurier University on doing research on cultural bias and escape rooms. They provided the funding to buy the equipment for this so that we can help other people to create their own escape rooms. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing, you can head over to scottnicholson.com. A big note, Liz Cable and I wrote a book on designing educational escape games. That's going to be coming out in March 2021 by Corwin Press. It's imprint of Sage. I've got a link to that below. And if you like my Escape Room Enthusiast t-shirt, you can also find a link to that below. So I'm going to leave you at that. I can see my special effects here of my spiders have come in from my Halloween show. So I will say goodbye and leave you watching this little guy explore the world. Does he have a red hourglass on his back? Uh-oh, gotta go. Bye-bye.